Chosen one, stop. Not as a request. Not as a gentle suggestion from someone who doesn't understand how much you have already tried. Stop because the one who sees your entire path from beginning to end, who has counted every step you have taken and held every prayer you whispered in the dark, has issued a direct instruction. And that instruction is the most strategically powerful thing available to you in this season. He said, "Do nothing, stay completely still, and watch me work." That is not a consolation. That is not God saying your situation is hopeless. That is a command issued by someone who already knows the outcome, who can see from above the full landscape you are standing in, and who is telling you that the best thing you can do right now is hold your position. Go quiet, and let what he has already set into motion reach you. I know what that costs. For someone carrying what you have been carrying, stillness is not rest. It is an act of warfare. It is choosing to trust when everything in you wants to move. But something brought you to this moment that you did not navigate on your own. That precision belongs to faithfulness. Stay still. He is already working, and you are about to see it. Before we go any further, I need you to do one thing. Stop the multitasking. Whatever else is running in the background, lower it. Silence the other noise. This is not casual content. What you are about to receive cannot land on a divided heart, and I would rather you give half the time with full presence than the full time with half your attention. And I want to tell you right now what is waiting for you at the end of this message, because there is a lot here, and I want you to know it is worth staying for. By the time we finish, you are going to understand what the season of stillness is actually for, not punishment, not delay, but a specific and purposeful formation that produces something no comfortable season ever could. I am going to show you what God is orchestrating in 3 areas of your life right now while you are waiting. I am going to give you a Hebrew word that rewrites what "be still" actually means, and once you hear it, you will never read those words the same way again. And I am going to give you a practice, not vague, not abstract, something specific you can use tomorrow morning. All of that is ahead. Stay with me. And one more thing before we begin. Everything I am going to share with you in this message is completely free. But if at any point your spirit tells you there is something more that you need, there is a resource in the description below and in the pinned comment. Only if you feel led, not before. There is a place inside every storm that the storm itself cannot touch. The scientists call it the eye. It sits at the absolute center of the most violent weather on Earth. And what makes it remarkable is not just the quiet, it is what the quiet lets you see. From inside the eye, you can see the full wall of wind spinning around you. You can see the scale of what is moving. You can take in the whole picture in a way that is completely impossible from inside the chaos. You cannot understand the storm clearly from inside the spinning. God is calling you today into the eye, into the still place at the center where He is. And I want to start by showing you something, because I believe you are already in this season and there are signs that confirm it. And when I name them, I want you to notice what happens inside you, because that recognition is itself a form of knowing. The first sign is a kind of tiredness that rest does not fix. You know the difference. You know the difference between being tired from a full day of real work and being tired in the bones, tired in a way that has no clear cause, and a good night of sleep does not touch. The exhaustion goes deeper than the body. It has weight that location and schedule and vacation cannot shift. This is not ordinary tiredness. This is a sign. The second sign is a shift in what you can tolerate. Things that used to consume your energy, the urgency, the drama, the conversations that once felt important enough to invest in, they grate against something now. Something quiet that has been rising inside you. A kind of internal calibration that pulls you back from noise that used to feel normal. You find yourself protecting something in yourself that you cannot fully name yet. This is not apathy. This is a sign. The third sign is a detachment from rhythms that used to work for you. The hustle habits, the scrolling, the productivity routines you built to feel like you were moving forward, they feel hollow. Now, in a way, you cannot explain to the people around you. You go through the motions and something in you does not connect with it the way it once did. The drive is still there, but it is reaching for something different, something more aligned with what you were actually built for. This is not losing your purpose. This is a sign. The fourth sign is timing you cannot explain. The right conversation arrives at exactly the right moment. A name surfaces across 3 unconnected places in the same week. Something happens on a day when you expected nothing to happen, and afterward you find yourself unable to call it coincidence because it was too specific, too precise, too well-timed to be random. This is not coincidence. This is a sign. And the 5th sign is a quiet knowing. Not dramatic, not a loud voice or a vision, just a flash of certainty in the most ordinary moments, a sense of what is true before anyone has confirmed it, a knowing in the chest that something is about to shift. You have stopped calling it anxiety. You have started paying attention. That is your spirit being tuned to the frequency of what is already coming toward you. These 5 things together are not random symptoms. They are markers of a season that has a specific name and a specific purpose. And most people inside this season think they are stuck. They are not. They are being formed. And there is a difference between those 2 things that changes everything about how you carry the days ahead. Let me say something before we go further, because it matters. What you have been walking through is real. The years of trying, the cycles of getting close and watching something fall apart at the last moment. The prayers that seem to dissolve before they reach the ceiling. I am not going to rush past that or give you a quick reframe that pretends the weight was not there. There was a man in the ancient writings who was anointed, set apart, called, marked for something extraordinary when he was still a teenager in the fields, the youngest in a family that did not fully see him. And after that anointing, after that clear and unmistakable moment of divine appointment, he went back to the sheep. He spent years in the wilderness, hiding in caves while the person sitting on the throne he was meant to occupy hunted him, writing songs in the dark, talking to God in the silence when there was nothing visible to show for any of it. David was not in the wilderness because God had forgotten him. David was in the wilderness because the throne required a version of him that the wilderness alone could produce. And I want you to understand something about your own season. There are 3 things the wilderness produces that no comfortable season ever can. The first is the stripping of the false self, the version of you who believed it was, your effort, holding everything together, the one who needed to be involved in every outcome, the one who, without realizing it, had started to believe that God needed your help. That version of you could not be trusted with what is coming, not because you are bad, because that version would take the credit and miss the point, and the point is too important to miss. The second is capacity. The container had to be enlarged. What God is preparing to place in your hands requires a version of you who was stretched by the uncertainty, by the waiting, by the discipline of holding on without being able to see what you are holding on for. That is not something a mentor can teach you. It is not something a season of success could produce. Only the wilderness grows it. The third, and this is the most rare, is trust at depth. The kind of trust that does not rest on visible evidence, the kind that holds in the dark. You are learning right now how to believe in what you cannot see, and how to stay faithful to a direction you cannot yet confirm. That skill, that specific, hard-won, wilderness-only skill, is what makes everything that comes after possible. None of that was wasted. Not a single day of it. There is a Hebrew word I want to give you now, because I think it changes the entire instruction. In the Psalms, there is a verse that most people know. Be still and know that I am God. And most people hear that as a polite suggestion. Calm down, take a breath, be quiet and patient. But the Hebrew word used there is raphah. And raphah does not mean be politely still. Raphah means sink. It means let go of your grip. It means release the effort of holding on. It is the image of hands that have been clenched around something for so long, they have forgotten what open hands feel like. And then, slowly, they open. God is not asking you to stay calm while you keep white-knuckling your situation. He is asking you to open your hands, to release the outcome you have been managing, to stop trying to assist him with the parts he never asked for your help with. When he says be still, when he says raphah, he is saying, let go of your grip on the result. Let me be the one holding it, because I am better at this than you are. And the thing you are gripping most tightly right now, the outcome you are most afraid to release, that is the exact thing he is asking you to place into his hands. And here is what I want to hold with you for a moment before we continue. The practice of raphah, of releasing the grip, of letting your mind and your spirit settle into a state of surrender and receptive trust, is something the ancient world understood as a spiritual discipline. And what is remarkable is that modern science has discovered that this exact state of deep, surrendered calm has a measurable signature in the human brain. There is something I want to come back to later in this message, and I will come back to it in depth, called the Genius Song. I am mentioning it now because what it does is directly connected to what I just taught you. It is an audio track built around brain entrainment technology that is designed to activate the same neurological state we are talking about, the state of deep, receptive stillness. I will explain exactly how it works and why I believe it belongs specifically in this season. But first, let me show you what God is doing right now while you are still, because this is the part that changes everything. Here is what I want you to understand about the season you are in right now. It is not empty. It only looks empty from where you are standing. From where God is standing, this season is one of the most active periods of your entire story, not because of what you are doing, but because of what He is doing. And He is doing it in 3 specific areas, and I want to walk through each one slowly, because I want you to feel the weight of what is happening right now in the invisible. For those who are in this specific season, this is what is moving around you right now. In your relationships, there is a pruning happening. People who were meant to walk with you for one chapter, but not the next, are beginning to exit. Some are walking away, some are simply drifting, and it is going to ache. You are going to question whether you pushed them away, whether you did something wrong, whether you changed too much. Do not chase what is leaving. Do not hold the door for what God is closing. The exit of certain people in this season is not loss, it is clearing. And the moment you stop filling that space with what is already finished, there is room for what is coming. For people who speak your language without needing a translation. For connections that can carry the actual weight of who you are becoming. In your purpose, something is being clarified in the silence that 10 years of activity could not produce. When you are constantly moving, purpose is a direction you point yourself in and hope you got it right. When you are still, purpose rises from inside you, like a sound that was always there, but the noise made impossible to hear. The quiet is not going to feel comfortable, it is going to feel irresponsible. You are going to feel like you should be doing something, proving something, being visible somewhere. That is the exact moment to hold the stillness the tightest, because what God speaks into a quiet life carries a specificity and a certainty that no plan made in anxiety ever could. And in your provision, I want you to understand these pathways are being formed right now that you cannot see. Connections are being made in rooms you have never entered, between people who do not yet know they are being routed toward you. Supply lines are being opened. Doors are being positioned. None of it is visible from where you are standing, and that invisibility is what makes trust so hard. But the work is happening underground, the way the entire root system of a tree grows in the winter before a single thing appears above the surface. The provision is not coming because you figured out the formula. It is coming because He already has. And I want to say this to you as directly as I know how. Because I hear something in my spirit being placed over your situation, something specific, and I want to give it to you. While you have been watching and wondering if I had forgotten, I have been building Every day that felt like silence to you was full of activity on my side. Every prayer that seemed to disappear reached me and is already part of what I am constructing on your behalf. What I am bringing toward you is more than you have asked for, and it is arriving at exactly the right time, not according to your calendar, but according to mine. Trust me, just a little longer. The morning is coming, and you are going to see it. There is a second figure from the ancient writings I want to bring into this conversation because his story speaks directly to where you are right now. Elijah had one of the most dramatic moments of divine power in all of Scripture, fire from heaven. A nation shifted, the impossible made visible, and then almost immediately after, he collapsed. He hid. He said, "I have had enough." He asked to be done. And God did not come to him with another great vision or a supernatural spectacle. God let him sleep, sent him food, let him rest, and then brought him to a mountain. On that mountain there was a great wind, there was an earthquake, there was fire, and the text says God was not in the wind, not in the earthquake, not in the fire. After the fire, a still small voice. What Elijah needed most, what finally reached him, was not the loudest thing, it was the quietest. And what God said to him in that stillness was not a complicated instruction. It was simple. Get up. There is more for you. You are not as alone as you think. He is saying the same thing to you today. You are not as alone in this as it feels. Get up, even if getting up looks like staying completely still and choosing to trust one more time. There is more for you. Come into the stillness, and you will hear what he has been trying to say. And before this message ends, I am going to speak something over your life that I believe will stay with you long after you leave this space. So stay with me. Now I want to name something, because I know that everything I have just described, the stillness, the surrender, the releasing, the grip, is going to run directly into something inside you that pushes back. And I want to name that thing before it has a chance to operate unchecked. It is the belief that if you stop managing, everything will fall apart. That belief did not come from nowhere. It came from seasons where you had to carry everything because no one else would. From the times you depended on someone or something and were left. From the version of you that survival required to be self-sufficient, to be always watching, always preparing for the worst, so you were never caught unprepared. That belief was a protection. And in some seasons, it kept you together. But here is what it costs you now. You cannot receive with clenched fists. The very hands that held everything together during the hard years are the same hands that are making it impossible for the next thing to land. Because what is coming does not need your management. It needs your availability, and availability requires open hands. You were taught that control is how you protect yourself. God is teaching you that surrender is the stronger protection. You were taught that movement is faithfulness. God is teaching you that in this season, stillness is the most faithful act available to you. You were taught that if you stop pushing, things stop happening. God is teaching you that sometimes the door you have been pushing against so hard is the one He is about to open from the other side. You are allowed to stop. You are allowed to let it be His problem. You are allowed to open your hands and hold them empty for a while. You are allowed to not have a complete plan for how this ends. You are allowed to let the thing you have been carrying the longest fall into the hands that were always supposed to be holding it. And you do not owe anyone, not the voice in your head, not the pressure of the timeline, not the people watching your life from the outside. You do not owe any of them an explanation for choosing to trust right now. If something in you just exhaled when you heard that type, the words, "I release it below," that is not a small act. That is a declaration of faith. And it echoes. Before I show you what comes next, and I am going to show you, there is one more thing I want to give you. Something that ties everything we have walked through together to something that exists in the world right now, something specific, something that connects the ancient practice of raphah to what neuroscience has been studying for over 30 years. When you understand the connection, the two things become one. Hold on. Let me take a moment here, because your mind deserves to know what it has received before we continue. Here is what you have learned in the last hour. You learned that the season of stillness is not punishment, and it is not delay, it is formation. It is the wilderness that produces what no palace, no success, no comfortable season ever could produce on its own. You learned that raphah, the Hebrew word God uses when he says be still, does not mean be politely quiet. It means release your grip, open your hands, let God hold the thing you have been white-knuckling. You learned that while you are still, He is reorganizing 3 areas of your life. Your relationships are being cleared and refilled. Your purpose is clarifying in the quiet, and your provision is being assembled in places you cannot yet see. And you learned that the main obstacle is not your circumstances. It is the belief that stopping means losing. And you have already begun to let that belief go. If any of that landed differently than you expected, if something in you has shifted, in how you understand where you are right now, then what I am about to share was built for exactly this moment, in exactly this kind of season. A research team at Princeton spent years studying what happens inside the human brain during the moments that people describe as breakthroughs, the sudden clarity, the answer that arrives without effort, the solution that appears in the quiet when the striving finally stops. What they found is that these moments are not random. They have a neurological signature, a specific, measurable frequency, and that frequency has a name. Scientists call it gamma. Gamma is not unusual. Every human brain is capable of producing it. In fact, when you were young, before the weight of adult life began to accumulate, before the school system and the stress and the survival habits, your brain spent significant time in gamma. It is associated with heightened clarity, with deep creative insight, with what some researchers have quietly noted in their own papers as moments of grace. But a neuroscientist named Dr. Robert Lake, 34 years studying the brain and its frequencies, identified something that his team confirmed across decades of research at institutions including MIT and Princeton. He called it the decline effect. Starting around age 7 and continuing through most of a person's adult life, the capacity for gamma activation is progressively suppressed by chronic stress, by noise, by the relentless demands of a life spent in survival mode. The brain learns to stay in lower frequencies because lower frequencies feel safer, and the gamma capacity, the genius state, the still small voice frequency, gets quieter and quieter until most people lose access to it almost entirely. What Dr. Lake built from that research is a 7-minute audio track that uses brain entrainment technology, specific sound frequencies embedded in the recording, to guide your brain back into gamma. You put on headphones, you settle into stillness, and you listen for 7 minutes. The technology does the neurological work. Your brain follows the frequency the way it was designed to. It is called the genius song, the chosen one I have been speaking to for the past hour, the one who was anointed before they were appointed, who has been in the wilderness being formed, has always operated at a frequency that the world tried to suppress. The decline effect did not take that capacity from you permanently. It made it quieter. The genius song was built to help you find it again. More than 18,000 people have walked through this before you. Less than 4% have come back for a refund. That is not a product statistic. That is a quality signal. The work they did with it, they kept. When you receive the genius song, you also receive 4 bonuses at no additional cost. The first is Genius Child, a 6-minute audio calibrated specifically for children's brains before the decline effect sets in fully. If you have a child in your life, this belongs in your hands. The second is the classic book that the film The Secret was based on, not the film, the source. A book about real financial principles that most people have never read. The third is a 22-minute guided visualization across 4 areas of life. finances, relationships, health, and joy. And the fourth bonus completes the package. The combined value of those four bonuses is $80. They come with your purchase at no additional charge. The Genius Song itself carries a regular price of $49, but for the people walking through this specific message, and only through the link in the description and the pinned comment below, the price is $39. That price does not exist anywhere else. $39 for the audio track and $80 in bonuses included. This season you are in has a window. The period of formation eventually shifts into the period of arrival. And the tool I am pointing you toward was built for exactly this. The season just before the breakthrough, when your brain needs to be in its clearest possible state to recognize and receive what God has already set in motion. One thing I want to make sure of, please do not look for the Genius Song anywhere other than the link I have placed in the description below and in the pinned comment. There are imitations, sites offering something under the same name that have nothing to do with Dr. Lake's research. The only place to access the real thing, with the full guarantee and the bonuses, is the specific link directly below this message. If the Genius Song calls to something in you right now, if what I just described fits what you know this season requires, everything you need is waiting in the description and the pinned comment. Only if you feel led. Only when you are ready. Now, let me tell you who you are on the other side of everything you have released today. You are a spiritual warrior. Not the loudest one in the room. Not the one who never struggles. The one who holds the position when every instinct says, abandon it. The one who stays when staying is the harder choice. The one who does not collapse under pressure because something deep in them knows the pressure has a purpose. You are a trust walker, the one who steps forward on what they hear instead of what they can see, who has learned through seasons exactly like this one that the path only becomes clear when you move, and that moving by faith looks quieter and more ordinary than anyone around you expects. You are the still point, the one who does not dissolve into the chaos, who becomes, over time, the place that other people orbit when the storm is loudest. You carry a peace that is not manufactured and not your own, and it is one of the most powerful things about who you are. And you are a chosen vessel, not chosen because of what you have accomplished, not because you earned it, or performed well enough, or finally proved something. Chosen because of what you have been willing to surrender. The raphah, the open hands, the choosing to trust when you did not have to. That surrender, that specific, costly, wilderness-forged act is the mark of someone who can be trusted with what is coming. Now I want to give you something you can use tomorrow. 3 steps. Morning if possible, but honestly, any moment of quiet will do. The first step, name it. Take the one thing you most want to control today. Say it out loud or in your mind. Name it, specifically. Naming takes the power away from the unnamed. The second step, release it. And here is the counterintuitive part. After you name it, do not try to solve it. Take one slow breath, and as you breathe out, picture your hands opening. Empty. You are handing it over. The raphah. 30 seconds is enough. The third step, speak one sentence. Out loud if you can. He is working on what I cannot reach. Say it once. Mean it as much as you are able, and let that be sufficient for today. The steps are simple. What makes it hard is actually choosing to do it, instead of defaulting back to managing. But each time you do, something in you learns that this is safe. That open hands do not mean empty hands. They mean hands ready to receive. I want to share a story before we close. I share it not as a formula and not as a promise of any specific outcome, but as a picture of what this principle looks like when someone dares to fully live it. A man whose primary source of work collapsed almost overnight made a decision that everyone around him thought was wrong. Instead of immediately launching a campaign to rebuild, which every instinct and every person in his life told him to do, He went completely still for 21 days, no outreach, no applications, no engineering a solution. He prayed, he rested. He practiced what he privately called the full experiment of trusting without a safety net. On day 19, the CEO of a company he had quietly admired for 7 years sent him a message out of nowhere, having received his name through a connection he had never directly spoken to. He did not manufacture that. He could not have. He proved himself in the silence before he ever promoted himself in public. And what came to him in that stillness was something his striving could never have constructed on its own. You have walked a long way with me in this message. And before we close, I want to take a moment that has nothing to do with content. No new thing to receive. Just a pause. You showed up today. You stayed. In a world that asks for your attention every second of every hour, you gave this time to something that required patience and presence. That is not nothing. Take one breath with me right now. Slow. Nothing to fix in this breath. Nothing to prove. Just breathe. Whatever you are carrying today is still going to be there after this breath, but you, just for this moment, are not underneath it. You are beside it. One more breath. And then let's close this together. I want to witness something before we pray. What you have done here today is real. You sat with stillness when everything around you was moving. You received a command that your culture told you was weakness. You allowed yourself to be seen in your exhaustion and in your faithfulness at the same time. You released something. You chose trust. These are not small things. These are the choices of a chosen one who is already practicing what they were called to. So let's close this together. Picture the thing you have been holding most tightly, the outcome you have been managing, the situation you have been trying to engineer. Picture it resting in your hands right now. Feel whatever weight that image carries. And now, slowly, without forcing it, without any performance, open your hands. Let it fall. Not because you are giving up on it, because you are giving it over to the one who holds it more securely than you ever could. There is a difference between giving up and giving over. And you have just chosen the one that requires more courage. You are not falling behind. You are being positioned. You are not being forgotten. You are being prepared. You are not losing. You are learning the most rare and most powerful skill available to a human life: how to trust the one who already holds your ending in his hands. And I want to say these words over you now, as directly as I know how. While you have been watching and wondering, he has been building. Every day of this season that felt like silence to you was full of movement on his side. Every night, you chose to trust. Instead of collapse, it was seen, it was held. What he is bringing toward you is more than you asked for. And it is arriving on a timeline that is wiser than yours. Hold on a little longer. The morning is coming, and you specifically are going to see it. Step into what has been written for you, into the sacred embrace waiting on the other side of this stillness season, into the fullness of a life that was always meant to be yours. Close your eyes for just a moment. Picture yourself 1 year from now, standing inside the very thing you have been trusting for. You are there. It came. And if you trace back the exact moment it turned, it was here. In this stillness, in this surrender, in this specific choice to trust when you did not have to. It is already sealed. It is already done. And so it is. Amen. If this message confirmed what your spirit already knew, if something in the last hour changed how you see this season, type the word Amen below before you leave. Just that. It is a seal. And every chosen one who types it today is joining something, a community of people all over the world who are choosing stillness when every pressure around them says push. You are not alone in this. You never have been. If this message reached you, if you found yourself in these words, tap the like so that the next person who is one step away from giving up on this season gets to find it too. You are not just watching. You are carrying this to someone else. Think about someone in your life who has been unusually quiet lately, who seems tired in a way they cannot explain, who has gone still in a way that worries the people around them. That person is not failing. That person is in the exact season we walked through today. Send this to them. You may not fully understand why right now. The reason will become clear later. And if this is the kind of word your spirit needs, stay close. Because what I share here is not content. It is correspondence. Messages that arrive for chosen ones at exactly the right time.